All righty. And are you Mr. DeAndre Ruffin? Okay. All right. Calling the matter of State of Georgia versus Andre Ruffin. Mr. Ruffin, this is your preliminary hearing. And you are charged in warrant number 2023 CW 56063, giving inmate gun, drugs, or alcohol. Representing the state is Attorney Freeman. Representing the defendant is Attorney Rogers. Attorney Freeman, your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Investigator Williams, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear and affirm that the testimony about to provide in the matter of State of Georgia versus DeAndre Ruffin will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You can lower your hand. Please tell us your name and how you're employed.
Investigator Q. Williams, employed with the Clayton County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you worked with the Clayton County Sheriff's Office?
8 months.
And were you working with the Clayton County Sheriff's Office on November 21st of 2023?
Yes, ma'am.
And on that particular day, were you made aware of an incident involving DeAndre Ruffin?
Yes, ma'am.
Please tell us what your investigation revealed.
During my investigation, I had a victim, Mr. Hill. He was being extorted, and the guys that was extorting him, the money they was getting was to be used to buy scripts. And scripts is pieces of paper that they spray chemicals on to get high inside of the jail.
You said, are you saying scripts or strips?
Strips. It's like strips of paper.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
okay. And how big are these strips of paper?
They're like actually strips. Like if you cut them, like not like a whole sheet of paper, it's strips of them.
The strips that that you were speaking of, did they have some kind of chemical on them already?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you able to determine what type of chemical had been placed on the strips?
No, ma'am.
Investigator Williams, how were you able to determine that there was a chemical on the strips?
Because during shakedowns, we collect the scripts and we test them, and they come back as some kind of spray that they're spraying on them, and they smell them and they get high off of them.
The strips that are the subject of this particular case, were they sent off to a lab or tested to see or to confirm that there was a chemical on them?
In this instance, no.
And can you tell us why it wasn't?
Mm-hmm. After the investigation, I went back and looked at video footage. It had already happened prior to. So when we went back, we weren't able to obtain the strips.
What did you observe on the video surveillance?
Mr. Ruffin passing the scripts under the door to 2 other inmates that's inside of the housing unit.
When you were made aware of what happened, just so we're clear, the strips had been used up or gone away, or what happened to them?
Mr. Ruffin, I don't know how he get them, but when he get them, he pass them to the other inmates after they get the money.
The inmates that you saw on the video surveillance who got the strips from Mr. Ruffin, were you able to talk to them to see if they still had the strips?
Yes, they did not speak with me after I read them their rights.
The video footage, has it been preserved?
Yes, ma'am.
At any time, did DeAndre Ruffin have permission to have these strips?
No, ma'am.
Did this happen in Clayton County?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. No further questions.
All righty. Attorney Rogers.
Thank you. Investigator, if I understand correctly, the date of the alleged incident is November the 21st, correct? It broke up a little on my end.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the date on the warrant that I've seen, it says the date is December the 19th. Do you remember if there was a delay like that?
Yes, I had to go back and look at video footage before I actually went and obtained warrants.
And if I understand correctly, inmates, they're allowed to have paper, right?
Yes, sir.
And the video that you saw, how far away was this video? Like from how far approximately is the camera from the location?
It's pretty close. I can see. I mean, I don't know exactly the proximity, but it's close for me to see him and his other inmates that's inside of the housing unit.
Okay. Could you see whether or not, well, what color was the paper?
White.
Could you see if there was writing on it or pictures or anything on the paper? I'm sorry, it kind of broke up on my end again. You said no?
No, sir.
Okay. And the video that we've been talking about, you've seen it personally?
Yes, sir. I saved it.
And if I understood correctly, so the particular items from that day, they were never seized or taken into evidence or anything?
No, sir.
No further questions at this time.
All right, any redirect, Attorney Freeman?
No, Your Honor, the state rests.
All right, closing arguments. Attorney Freeman?
State waives opening.
Attorney Rogers?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor. I'm asking for a dismissal, because, I appreciate Investigator Williams being straight about it. As I understand it, inmates are allowed to have paper. So what the issue is, seems to be that the allegations that there was some sort of chemical that would have been the contraband at issue in this case. But without the strips being seized, tested, or anything like that, there's nobody making any statements about what the purpose of the strips was, anything like that. It could have been phone numbers written on these pieces of paper, whatever the case may be. There's nothing to say any chemical on it. If they had found the strips and been able to say these are the strips that were taken and this is the chemical that was on them, then we'd be in a different place right now. But at the moment, all we have is that there's an allegation that Mr. Ruffin is seen on video with paper. I didn't hear anything that made it clear that you could observe from looking at the paper that there was some sort of chemical on or anything like that. So at this point, I don't think we have any basis to accuse Mr. Ruffin of being in possession of any sort of contraband. For those reasons, John, I would ask that the case be dismissed for lack of probable cause.
All right, Attorney Freeman?
Thank you, Judge. We heard testimony from Investigator Williams as to the purpose of these strips, that the inmates spray some kind of chemical on them and then they sniff it to get high. Investigator Williams testified that she watched the surveillance video and saw Mr. Ruffin placing the strips under the door, giving it to some other inmates. Based on her experience in the investigating these cases with what inmates do with these strips, and Mr. Ruffin placing the strips under the door for the inmates, we believe that it is enough to bind this one charge of giving an inmate prohibited items over to Superior Court.
Okay, so Attorney Freeman, I had one question. So there was no smell of the chemical, right? Is that what you said, Investigator Williams?
No, ma'am. At the time the incident happened, I had to go back and investigate, and we never got the items because the guy waited until he got. No, ma'am.
Okay, it was just a piece of paper that was slipped underneath the door, but y'all never seen it, and you've never smelled it.
We never. No, ma'am.
Okay, all right. I do not find sufficient probable cause to bind this case over. That's the order of the court.
Thank you, Judge. And may Investigator Williams be excused.
Yes, thank you, Investigator Williams.
Thank you, Investigator.
All right, bye-bye.
Have a good one. Judge, I think that was our last one. We're still on live.